Today I decided to speedrun Castle Crashers and it went a lot worse than I expected it to. For those of you that don't know, Castle Crashers is a quote-unquote 2D side-scrolling hack and slash developed by Behemoth in 2008. Now if you're like me, you've got no idea what any of that means, so let me break it down for you. Castle Crashers is just an old indie game where you, a based castle knight guy, have to go on a long quest to get back the king's jewel that was stolen from this evil wizard guy. You also have to save his daughters, but who really cares about them? Anyway, with the exposition out of the way, let's get on to the speed run. The run starts with you just vibing to some sick music, when all of a sudden some guy falls down the stairs and dies right before your very eyes. It's pretty traumatizing, but we don't have time for that, so we just go check on what happened. That's when we see that wizard guy I was talking about earlier, and he's stealing the king's super big jewel. Oh no! Now the king isn't a super huge fan of what just happened, so he tells us to go and get it back for him. But before we do that, we have to clear out the castle since it's overrun by barbarians that are holding our precious townspeople hostage. After vigorously fighting our way to this store clerk, we find his store completely overrun. We decide we should probably save his store, so we do, and we get rewarded with a rusty sword. Yeah, I'm not buying that, man, no thanks. Leaving the store, we make our way out the front gate. Outside of the castle is still overrun with barbarians, so we're gonna try and make our way to the barbarians camp. To do that, we have to, you guessed it, kill some more barbarians. Once I make it through the tons of barbarians that block my path, I get greeted by some sort of Trojan horse machine thing. Regardless of what it was pretty weak, especially if you know how to juggle, which I do. Now, if you're not a fellow Castle Crashers enjoyer, you may have a few questions. Questions like, what the heck is juggling? How can you do it to a freaking horse? And why the heck am I not subscribed yet? Well, you sit tight, because I'm going to answer probably just one of them, to be honest. Juggling in Castle Crashers is when you continuously use alternating heavy and light attacks while you're mid-air to kill certain enemies. You're essentially flying to avoid any harm. It's pretty cool. It's probably the most important mechanic in the game, and it's one that I use throughout the entire run. Anyway, after we take out that war machine, I make my way into the barbarians' camp, where I find 4 of them sleeping peacefully. Seeing them sleeping there, I decided to do what any reasonable person would do, and mercilessly kill them one by one while they slept. Needless to say, the rest of the barbarians weren't too happy about what I did. Something about a Geneva Convention or a war crime or something, I'm not sure. But what I do know is that that guy wants to kill me. And I'm sure you know exactly what a strong knight like myself did when faced with such a tough enemy. I ran away. Yeah, I ran away, but it was tactical. Leaving the game gave me a chance to level up my character to make myself stronger. Now there's 4 different things you can upgrade in Castle Crashers, them being Strength, which just makes you do more damage, Magic, which is for losers, Defense, which gives you more health and damage negation, and Agility, which really doesn't matter much either. Anyway, I decided to spend all my points leveling Strength because if I kill the enemy first, they can't hit me. With my tactical retreat out of the way, I went back to face the wimpy boss and surprisingly took him down very quickly. See, investing in Strength was a good idea. Anyway, with the boss killed, I was rewarded with a chest of gems and gold, as well as the Red Princess. After freeing her, she violates my right to consent and steals a kiss. Ew! After taking care of the barbarian camp, we move on to our next area, which is the forest. Here we have to deal with a new enemy type, who are the thieves. They just like to shoot arrows. They're pretty much a barbarian, but they learned archery, I guess. I don't know. I'd also like to note how interesting this game's humor is, because they have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 poop jokes in this one area. I can't complain, these are pretty funny, especially when I was younger. I thought these were the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Anyway, after getting past the waves of thieves and pooping animals, we get to our next boss, the Troll Mother. Now, the Troll Mother is a quite annoying boss because she spawns all of these smaller trolls who don't do a lot of damage by themselves, but when there's a lot of them, they get pretty ridiculous. Because of this, I try and target just the Troll Mother, which gets pretty difficult as fighting goes on because she decides to run away after every hit and forces me to chase her down. Thankfully, I've done this boss a bunch of times, so I was able to kill her on the first try, but I was definitely not at all close to dying and terrified the entire time. Definitely is not what happened. The next part of the game is pretty fun. It's just like a little mini-game platformer type thing. I don't know what's going on. But you have to ride a deer away from this big scary guy. And you've got to jump over logs and go through doors and such. This part's super easy when you're playing alone like I am, because the other deer are just controlled by the computer. so they know exactly what's going to happen and where to go, so you just follow behind them and it's easy. After escaping that scary dude, we end up in a river and have to take out these big fish while bats are constantly trying to bite us. This part isn't too hard because by upgrading strength, I do so much damage, so they died pretty quickly. After beating up all those harmless fish, we end up getting to the next boss of the area, the catfish. This might actually be the easiest boss in the game because all you really have to do is move up and down to avoid his swimming attacks and block his hairball and punching attacks. It's pretty simple. Then when he gets hit by the cannonball from the ship, you just start spamming attacks until eventually he goes down. Once we beat the catfish, we move on to our next area, the tall grass field. Here we're greeted by these funny looking bear guys who try and beat us up with fish. They're not too difficult and I just juggle them like pretty much every other enemy. Once we take out enough of them, the head bear guy gets mad, and we have our first boss fight of the area. I say boss fight, but in reality it's just a normal guy with extra health, and he can occasionally turn into a tornado, which I guess is pretty cool. Regardless, he's really not all too difficult, and we beat him pretty easily. Unfortunately, the next guys here aren't so easy. Now I haven't mentioned, but there's 3 or more types of enemies in the game that you've got. There's the normal guys who you've seen plenty of, they're just normal dudes. They're my size, I guess. Then you have your bosses, who are really tough and strong, and they have the big health bars at the bottom of the screen. But then there's the beefies. Beefies are bigger, stronger versions of the regular dudes, which make them pretty hard to kill. But to make it even worse, I can't juggle them like I can the normal guys, which means some of them are harder than the area bosses, especially when they can just juggle me pretty much. They just throw me every time I get near them. I really struggled with these guys, not just here, but throughout the entire run, and these guys specifically took me 3 tries before I could finally get past them. This also sucked because each time I failed, I had to start from the beginning of the level and kill all the bear guys and the boss all over again. Glad that won't ever happen later on in the run. Eventually, I finally took out the big guys, and I reached the mouth of a cave, where we see 2 evil henchmen taking away 2 of the remaining 3 princesses. Seeing as the ice henchmen literally teleported away, I go after the one that ran into the cave because I can actually do that. The cave is a pretty short area, but man is it annoying, simply because these slimes have way more health than they should, and they're super resistant to every type of attack, magic and physical. Thankfully, they don't do too much damage, so after a few minutes of fighting, I was able to take them all out. After doing that, I stumble upon the next boss of the area, this big bat guy. The bat's not too hard to kill, you just have to avoid his poop, yeah, another poop joke, and his licking attack, which does way more damage than I think it should. Despite all that, I've done this boss so many times, so I get through it pretty easily. And with that, we move on to the next area. The next area is a big castle that we have to storm to stop the evil henchmen from marrying the princess. After fighting off bees for some reason, we hop in a catapult and fight our way into the castle. After breaking through a roof and ruining a perfectly good wedding cake, we kill even more knights until we finally get to the henchmen. This is a pretty basic boss fight. We just have to avoid his attacks while he's playing the piano and invulnerable, and then deal as much damage to him when he finally comes out to attack us himself. After a few cycles, we manage to take him down, but the princess gets stolen by a cyclops and we have to chase them down again. Unfortunately, during the chase scene, the big scary guy makes his return and we have to actually fight him this time. Thankfully, I found a completely new way to kill him I'd never tried before. I actually jumped off the wagon and started juggling the boss, and somehow it worked, and I managed to kill him really quickly. Sadly, we decided not to save the princess, but to get hit by the entrance to another cave and fall off, meaning we have to chase them through the cave. Yippee! Thankfully, there's less slimes in this cave, so it doesn't take too long until we stumble upon the wreckage of the wagon being pillaged by thieves. After taking out both knights from the castle and thieves from the wreckage, we fight onward to the Cyclops' castle. We make quick work of our guards and get to the Cyclops' boss fight, where I proceed to get stomped on, meaning I have to go back and kill our guards again. Before that, I decided to get some healing potions so I don't frickin' die this time, and it proves useful as I use one before even getting to the boss fight, then a few more during the actual fight. And with that, we save another princess who yet again steals a smoochy woochy kissy wissy from me. I'm upset. After freeing a princess, we need to find a special golden steering wheel at the top of a volcano, so that's exactly what we do. I fight through waves of these weird lava imp guys until seeing the main evil wizard guy and one of his henchmen. His henchman thinks it's a good idea to revive a bunch of dead skeletons that I just have to kill before getting to a little baby volcano bot. This boss, if you can even call it that, is super simple. All you have to do is eat a sandwich to become super buff and then hit him a bunch of times and he goes down. Once we kill him, we can make our way to the actual boss, who's guarding our precious wheel, the Sock Dragon. This fight can be pretty annoying as the dragon breathes fire, the sock smacks you if you get too close to the mountain, and the mountain has rocks that constantly fall down trying to squish you. Despite all of these hurdles, I managed to slowly juggle my way to victory. But I defeated him nonetheless and got my first of 3 pieces, the wheel. I then realized I never got the easiest piece and walk over to the blacksmith and steal it from him. It's then time to get the third and final piece I need to progress further in the game, the spyglass. In case you're wondering what these pieces are for, you'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, the spyglass is being used by this evil prince who's keeping one of the princesses in his tower, so we gotta go get both of them back. To get to the prince, we first need to get past all his guards and minions and whatnot. Unfortunately, this area took me over 20 minutes to get through, simply because this big beefy boy was close to impossible to kill. You see, normally you'd upgrade something other than strength, like, I don't know, magic, which can easily take these guys down. Unfortunately, I didn't do that, so I have to do this funky method I came up with on the fly just to have a chance of taking this guy out. Even with that, it took me 5 tries to get past him, each time having to restart from the beginning, which kinda sucked. Despite all that, I got to the boss, who again is easier than the beefy guy I just killed. So without much of a fight, aside from his tickly fingers, he went down. At this part of the game, you can choose to kick the prince off the castle or let him live, and I accidentally get too close to the spyglass, unintentionally saving this guy's life. I regret my entire existence because this guy needs to not be here. Now that we've acquired all 3 pieces, we can now board the ship to get to the desert. On our way though, we get attacked by a group of pirate ninjas who try and steal all our loot. Thankfully, the strongest knight in the entire kingdom was there and single-handedly saved the entire ship. I'm talking about me, by the way. After saving the ship, we arrive at the desert, and with it, we have a few new enemies, such as the scorpions, who literally die in one hit. These worm dudes who spit acid at me, and these scarab guys that go underground because they're so scared of my superior strength. Oh, and these desert warriors that can't be juggled. So yeah, the desert kinda sucks. Despite all that, nothing interesting really happens until I get abducted by literal aliens. Yeah, this game gets kinda weird. Anyway, after escaping alien prison, I make it to their control panel where I have to fight off nearly 100 of these little guys. Thankfully they're weak, but in numbers they put up quite a fight. After the long battle, I came out victorious, and attempted to find a way off the ship when I ran into this big alien curling a 600-pound weight. Thankfully, I don't have to fight him because he decides to self-destruct the ship and run away. Guess he was also scared of my superior might. Anyway, seeing as the ship's literally about to explode, I fight my way to the nearest escape pod and go through this totally necessary TSA line, making it just in time with literally 0 seconds left. Unfortunately, after making it off the ship, the fight still wasn't over. I now had to fight these new desert raider guys, who themselves weren't too much of an issue, but their beefy variant caused me immense pain. Unfortunately for me, there's an area right before the next checkpoint that has 2 beefy guys in it, meaning it's twice as long and twice as hard to finish them off. At least I was still able to utilize my previous technique and beat them on my second try, but it still kinda sucked. Although after this, the enemies decided to invite me to a volleyball match, which I definitely didn't lose twice. Luckily in my 3rd match, I completely destroyed them in a totally one-sided match. After this total embarrassment on their part, they gift me with a map to find my way through the desert. It literally just lets me get to the next area, which is the swampland. I hate this place. I hate it so much. Similarly to the desert, this place has a super tight area where I have to deal with 3 beefies and 4 supercharged regular dudes. All of this because this goober henchman guy freaking hates my guts, I guess. I don't know. What did I do to him? He's so mean. I tried using my previous technique, but the regular guys just stopped me, meaning I had to kill them first, then take on the 3 beefies all at once. All that is much easier said than done. Despite that, this area took me 4 tries and 15 minutes to get past. And after finally beating it, I'm greeted by these distressed farmers whose crops have turned against them. This next guy's the Corn of Cobb, and we gotta take him out. Which, like every other boss in the game, is pretty easy but very annoying. This guy just runs after every time he's hit, so he just takes forever to kill. Eventually we do take him down and move on to the next area, which is the Flooded Temple. This area isn't too bad. All we have to do is fight these weird looking fish dudes who really aren't much of an issue at all. Also, they turn into cooked fish when they die, so that's kind of funny. But after taking out all these fish, we have to take out frickin' Medusa. Yeah, I'm not sure why she's in the game, but she is, I guess. Anyway, Medusa only has like 3 attacks, one being the baby snakes that she spawns, which bite and poison you, the snake on her head that bites you if you get too close, and her laser eyes, which, as you can probably guess, turns you to stone. Avoiding all that's fairly easy though if you stay close to her and juggle her like any other enemy. And with this, I take her down with relative ease.
Nice.
After doing so, I need to make my way up to the Ice King's Tower, and to do this, we need to climb up this stupid mountain full of knights and beefy knights, which is just so much fun, especially when I can't juggle even the regular guys, let alone the beefy version of these goobers. After getting through them, we need to make our way to a campsite where there's like an infinite amount of these knights who do way more damage than I think they should. It's pretty unfair. Thankfully, after 2 attempts, I finally make my way into the icy, snowy area. This area isn't too difficult, we just have to get through the ice variant of those thieves from earlier, and they aren't too difficult because I can actually juggle them, and they go down pretty quickly. After getting past the ice thieves, I make it to the Ice King's castle, and after making it past this cheeky little minigame type thin path thing, I get to the Ice King's lair where he's keeping the next princess. The Ice King, like every other boss, is a bit annoying. He likes to teleport around a bunch and drops never-ending icicles on your noggin that kill you if you stop moving. Despite all that though, he's pretty easy. I fought him a bunch of times, so I didn't die, and it just took a while of running around and hitting him once before he teleports away. Despite all that, I managed to kill him and free the 3rd princess, leaving only 1 to save. Oh yeah, and we kissed this princess too. They all love me, I don't know why. After killing the Ice King, we see the evil wizard and his remaining 3 henchmen fly up on a magical floating island, to which we say, screw that, and literally fly. Man, I really wish we used this earlier to like climb the lava mountain or the princess factory or, I don't know, cross the literal ocean that we had to get 3 pieces to cross. That, I don't know, man. Regardless of continuity, we fly up to the rock and prepare to fight the last 4 bosses in the game. After fighting through a few of the evil wizard's minions, we find a set of teleporters that are going to teleport us to each of the final henchmen. The first of which being the painter. This guy summons paintings which damage you if they hit you. I really wasn't sure how to optimally take this guy out because he runs away, leaving you to kill his paintings, and seeing as I only upgraded strength and defense, I had no way of killing them without getting hit. Eventually I just gave up and let them hit me so that I could attack the painter as much as possible, which eventually worked out. This next boss is one that we've already killed, or I should say 2 bosses, because it's the Cyclops and the piano guy. This fight is pretty easy, we just have to juggle the Cyclops, then run away when he hides on his coffin and lets the piano guy run around. It's a pretty easy cycle and you manage to take them down with no effort. The 3rd and final henchman is this guy. I don't know his name, I'll call him the Summoner though, because he summons old enemies for each level back from the dead. This would be a pretty easy boss fight if not for these stupid beefies that he spawned that just stunlock the hell out of me, stopping me from attacking any of the other enemies. But after 2 attempts and like 15 health potions, I finally get through his summons and finally get to fight him. And boy, was it easy. Literally all you have to do to beat this guy is just spam light attack and he just dies. Which is bittersweet after the hell he just put me through up to this point. But despite all that, we've reached the evil wizard and the final boss of the game. The wizard fight is both fun and very odd. He has 6 different phases, which is crazy, but most of them are pretty easy. The first phase, he throws crystal fragments at you, which you have to avoid and then destroy. I goofed up a little at first, but it was pretty easy after I got the hang of it. After this phase, the evil wizard actually comes down and fights you man to man, although he does have a bubble of immunity half the time, which repels any damage back to you. That just means you can only attack him when his bubble is red. Again, it's not too difficult of a fight, but a little annoying as he keeps spamming attacks and running away. The third phase is just the evil wizard guy is a balloon that you have to juggle to kill. This phase is super easy, you just have to avoid these white balls, and you're fine. Here the game plays a trick on you, pretending to be done with a fake chest that when opened reveals the spider wizard, which definitely didn't give me nightmares as a child. This is definitely his hardest phase by far. In this one he damages you from all ranges, he spawns minions, and he can juggle you if you're not careful. It was pretty stressful, but I managed to take out this wave as well. This led into the 5th phase of the boss, which is just the ball phase again, only faster. It was easy and really there's not much to note. All of this culminates into the 6th and final phase of this boss. This being his
"Do you like my sword, 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 my diamond sword, sword?"
In this phase, the wizard takes a magic sword and fights you with it. He has a few different attacks, them being his spinny move, his pew pew boulder move, and his fireball. This phase takes a while, but all his moves are really easy to avoid since they're so obviously telegraphed, and it's really not much of a challenge for an elite gamer such as myself. And with all that, I managed to take him down and save the final princess, with a time of 3 hours, 14 minutes, and 56 seconds, which puts me at 44th out of 46 people. Yeah, there's definitely some room for improvement there, but I'm proud of myself, okay? Castle Crashers was such a memorable game from my childhood, and I'm glad I was able to speedrun it, but man, I will never do it again. This game is definitely more fun to play with friends than speedrun alone. But anyway, I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and the grind never stops.